Glad to see all of y'all here tonight. We're shy a couple, but we have other things to do. And I'll entertain a motion as the first order of business on the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've read over those minutes and I move for their approval.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll get right to business tonight. At least this time, y'all will have somebody's approval, whatever you're asking for, I guess. So it's better to come tonight than gush. It seems like this summer it's been not many of them. Correctional Work Center. Golly. First time the superintendent sat in here at the beginning of the meeting all year.
That's pretty good. How are you all?
Good.
We'll go ahead and get started with our minutes from our last board meeting. Of course, this month will be relatively short because we're starting over, but just a couple of things that we talked about during that meeting was our expenditure report throughout the year. The thing that we discussed was the fact that we went a whole year without a budget amendment or needing any extra funds. Let's hope that we can continue to do that. So, and we're going to be, I think after of course we still have to talk with Dr. Rudd about the overage charges, but prior to that, I think we looked at $220,000 turning back in. So, let's see, down here with over the past month, we did go to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and received our reaccreditation certificate for the American Correctional Association, and we're approved for that 100% on that. So that's commend our staff for doing such a great job.
Has Mayor Burgess met with Dr. Rudd yet on those?
I think it was going to be this past week.
Okay.
Not sure if he actually sat down with him or not yet.
Okay. Not good, but I'm sure Dr. Rudd's going to get hold of somebody pretty quick, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
You might want to just explain that, just say for everybody
Yeah,
what those are.
in the contract, there's an allowance for any overage charges, and then anything that we go over past that, we usually work out with pay back. And that usually comes from emergency room visits and things that are kind of unexpected. Luckily, I think I told you guys last month that our emergency room visits throughout this past year were cut considerably back, more than half. So hopefully we won't have very much payback. Our yearly activity report, not a whole lot of significant changes on that. Their work release, like I said, of course, this is the July, so we're starting over. Our yearly activity report, no significant changes there. We're still running about the same average. And then, of course, our monthly worker report with projected savings of about $114,752 by using MA. And other than that, just like to obviously thank you all for your support and guidance throughout the past year. Without you all approving the ACA budget and keeping us good on that accreditation, we wouldn't have had such a successful year, so I appreciate it.
We appreciate the work you're doing out there too, especially I think with the new things that we've got. Hopefully it'll be better for our recidivism rate.
I think so. I think last recidivism study we did, our recidivism's right around 32%, which is really good. I talked to Commissioner of Corrections, Department of Corrections Commissioner last week. Theirs is lower than it's been in years too, so theirs is still around 50%, but we're doing well.
That's good. Any questions for Superintendent Coe? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the report.
Make a motion to approve this report as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
I thought when you were first one month, you went to last the next month. They got you second this week,
I
right?
think they're actually putting us in good rotation.
You might be retired by the time you get last.
I have an amendment, I guess, we need to do a report, so.
Do you want to do the budget, submit it first, and then we'll look at the report?
This happens every year. The donated money from last year, 17-18 from the Greenhouse Memorial Fund, I'm just moving them into the proper line items. So we can spend it.
You heard the request.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the rolls, please, Ms. Garland.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. I guess there's nothing significant in the reports at all.
I would like to tell y'all we're getting our scanner, body scanner. It's being shipped in the morning. It'll take us a couple of weeks. State will have to come in and inspect it because of the X-ray radiations. Hopefully 2 or 3 weeks, we're on that.
Well, it helped you out there. Well, it ought to protect everybody that comes out there. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
we always forget that.
Yeah, that's gonna be, always have budget amendments, right?
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Second.
Motion is second.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Did good. Mr. Good, OSHA report.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
You notice for the month of July reporting that we had 11 injuries requiring medical treatment. You'll see the breakdown there. That brings the total for the year-to-date to 135. Of that 135, 96 of them are OSHA recordables, 41 had restricted days, 22 lost time days, and 33 all others. Next page of your report shows the claims for this year as compared to the 2 previous years. In 2016, at this time, we had 101 injuries. 2017, we had 116. We're at 135. So we have been increasing slightly, but I'd like to address that here in just a few minutes, a little bit further on in the presentation. The incurred dollars, as you see there, in 2016 we had $289,000 at this time, compared to last year of $392, and we're at $420 at this time for the last 3 years. Of those 11 injuries for for last month, excuse me, the total incurred dollars were $12,302. And since it was for July, the Board of Education was out for the summer at that time, so they had a small staff in there doing custodial work. They had 2 injuries in the month, and the total incurred dollars there was $3,340. County General had 9 injuries, and the total incurred dollars was $8,962. And then the next page of your report, we broke down those areas for the County General. You'll notice that's where you have the PAWS, County Service, or County Sheriff Department, Maintenance, Ambulance, Juvenile Detention, and Solid Waste. During the last meeting, you asked me to bring back to you a review of the last 3 years. So I started off with the next page of your report, which is the illness and injury statistic recap that you've requested in the past years, and present that to you. And a couple of things I want to bring out and show to you. First off, just under the state incident average there, you'll notice last 2 years not completed because state hasn't got those numbers. They haven't been published yet, so don't have anything for 2016 and 2017 of that. But if you compare that to the total incident rate for the county, the one just next to that, you'll notice that we steadily maintain below the state average. And that's the state average is figured out for local government. Okay, that's what we're rated in there across the state for local government. Things I wanted to point out to you, if you look at in 2007, we had total employees of 5198. We're at 6722 now. And over 11 years, that's an increase of a little over 29% as far as employees. Also, the man hours are up by, over that same period, 27%. And as you get additional employees, additional man hours, that's where things increase. However, the troubling issue that we look at is the severity rate over the last 3 years. Is what prompted you to ask me to come back to. And you'll notice the very last column, it shows the severity rate has actually increased on that. While the lost time injuries haven't necessarily increased, the very first column you look at, 38, 32, 33, where you see the increase is in the lost days, which is the fifth column over. You'll notice that that's steadily gone up over the last 4 or 5 years. So I went back and tried to figure out exactly where those are coming from, where those injuries are. So the next page of the report, I actually went back and looked at the last 3 full years, 2015 through 2017, to figure out where those are. And basically they're where we have talked about in the past: slip, trips, and falls, and strains. So for the year, last 3 years total, total incurred for slip, trips, and falls is $673,000. We had 148 of those. And strains was $402,000 incurred, and we had 116 of those. So try to explain a little bit more what we can do and where those are. Look several different ways to break it down. And one of the things that I realized after breaking it down, the next page of the report, we did it by age. And that's where you'll see that your numbers kind of pop out at you as you look at that. And if you look at the age 65 and over for the 3 years, total incurred dollars for individual injuries over 65 were $294,000. And we had 18 claims of individuals over 65. And that's where the cost per claim you looked at $16,000. So that's one of the places we need to start looking at and concentrating our training on, and looking at injuries for individuals over 65. Also, if you look at that, 55 to 64, you'll notice that's $446,000, and we had 102 of those. So as you look at it, as employees get older, the cost of the claims go up. And there's several reasons for that. That gets back to the effect of aging that we're all aware of. People's vision start to fall.
You're starting to meddle now.
I'm gonna be 63 here next month, so I'm right there with you. Hearing, back injuries, repetitive motion, your reaction time is slower, balance is off. All those things add to the things that we're talking about right here as to what we call the injuries: slip, trips, and falls, and strains, repetitive motion, and things like that.
Hey, Dave, quick question. And those particular, those 65 years or older, where there's 18 claims, are there any of them that stand out? Is there any single claim where maybe, we had, I do remember one person at a convenience center, being pinned. I just wonder, is there anything out there that really kind of blows this?
Yes, sir. If you actually look at the next page of your report,
I should have shut up.
it says cause group, and you'll see that cot in or between, and that's the one that you're talking about. You notice there's 146,000. Basically, that's one claim, okay? And that gets back specifically what the deputy mayor was referring to, that is one claim. Also, underneath that, you'll notice again what we were talking about on slip, trips, and falls, and strains, and that is the number one and number two things that are causing injuries. And you'll notice that again, the number of claims for employees over 65. We didn't address the younger ones. We're looking at strictly the older ones here. And the average cost of each claim in that situation. Okay? So if we have an individual over 65 that falls, that claim is probably going to cost us close to $18,000 for that one individual, as compared to a much smaller amount for other individuals. And again, the reason for that is because it takes an individual at that age longer to heal, longer to get back to work, to full duty and things like that. And that full duty and restricted duty goes specifically back to your report on the illness injury cap when we start looking at lost days and restricted days on those last 3 years. And you can see that those are up, and that's what drives the severity rate out here on the very end of that report. Some of the concerns that we're looking at in order to address those things, we're looking at lighting. That's a big issue with the elderly, making sure that people's got lighting in order to see. We're talking about walkways being kept clear, safety hazards and trip hazards. Spills are a big thing, especially with the schools when they do the new polishing of floors, just like they have this summer. As soon as they come in, I'm going to tell you right now, I know that in the month of August, we're going to be up on slip, trips, and falls in the schools, because any little bit of water on their floors and people are slipping and falling. And so what we need to do is look more at matching up the employees to the work duties that they do, the type of work they're doing, and the support that they get while they're out there. And then, of course, we need to also look at when an individual is injured, look at whether the trauma is specifically due to the injury or whether it's partly due to the aging process, what they're incurring. So that's one of the things that we're looking at as we see the claims.
Hold up. Do you know how many employees we have over 65?
I do not have those numbers, no. I don't have a way of doing that at my level. I can just tell you as far as the injuries that occur over 65.
Could it be that they have stronger work ethics and are trying to get all their job done, and maybe some of these others aren't?
They definitely do have a stronger work ethic, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. We do look at over 65, they have a stronger work ethic. They'll show up, work more. They're more committed to doing the quality job that they do. Yes, sir, absolutely. But in trying to do that, then the other things that they do, they push themselves harder. And when they push themselves harder, then they have injuries. They try to rush to get things done. In fact, the one that the deputy mayor presented about the individual that was hurt, he actually caught between two cars. She asked, why did he get caught between two cars? He was out there going beyond what he's required to do as far as running the compactor at the finger. He was actually helping somebody to unload the trash out of the back of the car, which when the car behind him got out there and caught him between the cars. And that's one that usually don't talk that much about him, but that one made the news in the county, and it's out there, so it's...
Well, plus you get older, and the Board of Education has a lot of older people that they're teachers that want their room to be certain ways, and they think they're still back in their 30s, and that I'll just say a female, that she thinks she can put something way up on the top shelf again. It's not the lightest thing in the world, and she could do it before, and you know.
And we do have certain
Okay.
departments that...
Hey, I've got to say
As old
something.
as you are.
I've got to say something. You know, you're talking about this amount of cost and all this, but you had 18 claims, and down here in your 35 to 45, you had 170 claims that failed. Yeah, they didn't get hurt as much, but they're falling more. But I think the over thing that we see here, I think what I'm wanting to ask a question about, when someone falls within any of these whatsoever, we do take it seriously that we do something at that time, don't we?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And they are reported, they are looked at, if somebody falls, a lot of times an ambulance is called,
Yes.
where sometimes, it may not be, there are a reported claim regardless if there are anyone hurt or whatever
Yes, sir.
in there. So they're in this report and what we've got.
Yes, sir. And I want to just make it very clear. When somebody is injured, okay, It's not me that makes the decision where an ambulance gets called. It is the individuals on the scene.
It's the liability that we're responsible.
That's right, and we never question. I never go back and say, you should not have called an ambulance. If somebody calls an ambulance, then that's the way it is. If somebody gets sent to the ER, we don't question whether or not that should have been an ER visit or not.
Right.
That's not a question. We
Well,
never
that's what I'm
question
saying. We
anybody.
don't need to take away the importance of the responsibility, of the liability of what we're doing here
Absolutely.
within the county.
But one thing that we do is we do require our injury reports. And then that, we've actually get a report, an administrative report, a claim report. Then the employee fills out a statement as to what actually happened from their point of view. And then we also require a supervisor's statement or investigation. And that, what the purpose of that is supervisor to make sure that they are aware of the injury. You won't believe this, but there have been times when supervisors didn't know that somebody actually got hurt. And the whole purpose of the supervisor's statement is to make sure that they're aware of the injury, what happened, and to take whatever corrective action needs to be taken. The biggest example I have on that is if somebody slips and falls and you do an investigation, find out where the water cooler was leaking. Well, the supervisor's responsibility is fix the water cooler. If they don't fix the water cooler, then you know what happens next week. We have another slip, trip, and fall to the same water cooler because somebody didn't get it fixed. So that's why we do require, supervisor statements so that they can then take whatever corrective action. The last thing I just wanted to kind of bring up to you, because I'm sure everybody's saying, what are we doing to try and combat this? What are we trying to address this? I've been working with Josh Kubley of the Board of Education. Him and I both sent out emails. He sent out an email addressing safety training on July the 25th. Mine went out the very next day on July the 26th. So we addressed all training for all the county employees at that time and giving them dates, and we have the training metrics that they were supposed to do. So what happens now is an employee actually goes in, supervisor sends out and says, these are the subjects you have, and we gave them until October the 26th to get the training done, depending on how much training in different departments across the entire county, okay? And they actually go in, do that training, and reports back to their supervisors that they've completed that training. Now, with 6,000 employees, the old way of doing training where you actually have a classroom and people go in and come in and sit down and things like that, it's not feasible anymore with the staff that we have to do the training and everything. So we actually have online training. Employees actually go in, they were given the website, they actually pull up the training, they walk through the slide presentation at their convenience. So if they've got a few free minutes between classes, or while they're presenting that, or at the end of the day, or something like that, they go through, do their training, and once they've done that training, they report back to their supervisor, and the supervisor has a log sheet that we provided. They write the name down the side and then the date that the training was conducted for each employee. And we are getting interest on that because I'm getting calls back on that from people on the county side wanting to know, well, what about this and how's this going on and what that's happening. So we are doing that, okay? Just want you to be assured that the training is being conducted. Lastly, one of the big areas that we have, we see a lot of senior employees that we have are with the part-time people in the solid waste, okay? Especially around the convenience centers. If you go out to the convenience centers, you'll see that that's where we have a lot of our senior employees and where we had our one big major accident here a while back. And I am scheduled to conduct training at the solid waste for the full-time and part-time in here coming up in October, on October the 8th and on the 11th. I'll be having training sessions with solid waste, and we'll be conducting the training with them. And these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at during that time as far as, what types of things to protect yourself from, especially on slip, trips, and falls and things like that. I hope I covered what you wanted me to cover from last month.
I hope some people watch it on YouTube or on Channel 19, and because some of these are over and over with the falls and strains. Some of the strains it's going to happen when you're in something like the sheriff's department, but the falls and the slips, those things, it's paying attention a lot of times.
And that is true. And one of the big things that happen is, as an employee goes through, regardless of where they are, as far as their work duties and things like that, If you let your attention get distracted, one of the perfect things is a teacher walking in the classroom. She may be trying to teach, remember what she's trying to teach. She's walking around the classroom, she's monitoring the students and things like this, and she's walking up and down the aisles. And that all sounds great and real easy until one of the students standing there and he's got his foot stuck out, or he's got his backpack not underneath his chair and stuck out. The teacher catches her foot on the edge of the backpack and trips and falls. And that's something that we would cover for, and we'd treat the employee for and everything. And you sit there and say, oh my gosh, isn't this preventable? And yeah, but then you're trying to monitor the kids, doing the training to the students, and control the classroom, and maintain your thought in what you're trying to teach them. So there's a lot going on. And of course, accidents happen. You asked me, can accidents be prevented? And the answer is yes. Every accident can be prevented. But it just takes a lot going on in the classroom for you to stop and be aware of everything that's happening.
Further questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the report.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Motion is second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Plus, if you have an injury on the job, it could hurt your golf game too,
That's true.
because you can't go out.
I tried to stand up, y'all best I could. That's how I roll.
Can't have that.
You know, I went to school 12 years, I never had a teacher fall.
How are you, sir?
They always do.
Good, how are you?
Does that.
Good.
I mentioned if you had a question in mood tonight, that I'm kind of bound by HIPAA, so I can't do
Okay.
We had 2,912 calls this past month. Average response time was 7.4 minutes. Coroner's calls, we had 56, and 26 of those were sent for autopsy. We billed almost $1.6 million. We collected $622,250. It's kind of early for projection, but that projects to $7,467,000. I hope that it will be better than that. I'm sure it will be. We had insurance write-offs of $486,673 and collection agency write-offs of $496,551. Table at the bottom of the page is the ambulance table. We drove 52,650 miles. Maintenance costs and the fuel costs are listed there. Cost per mile was 64 cents, which is a little bit high, but just about all of that can be blamed on ambulance number 80. Which had quite a bit of repairs and stuff. Next page, we had 5 in-services and training that you can see there. Paramedics worked Uncle Dave Macon days. Our TOPS team had a call out for 3 high-risk groups. They serve as SWAT medics for both the Sheriff's Office and our Police Department, as well as TPI and those agencies. The REACT team had 12 different things. You can read the classes there that they taught, the things that they attended. Expect that those are going to increase because of the time of the year that we're beginning with the football games and so forth. We cover all of the high school, middle school football games as well as all of MTSU's football games. SORT team had several things worth mentioning. They actually recovered 2 drowning victims, one at Walter Hill and one at Jefferson Springs Recreation Area. They also did the things that they normally do, which is responding to motor vehicle accidents and providing extrication services. Also helping with medical calls. They actually cover one specific area, plus the only heavy rescue team in our county. Next next page is the short calls that are itemized. I made 154 calls last month. Following page is a number of sick hours for July. Continue to report this each month just so that you know that that represents, when you work 24-hour service, that represents a considerable expense when you're having to cover those sick days. The following 2 pages are from Vanderbilt Life Flight. It concerns two patients that they life flighted from the scene to Vanderbilt Hospital. The bad news is neither one of those patients survived, but they did survive until they got to Vanderbilt. So that's the report, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Nunlin? He had us ended, so we'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Further questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Have a good evening. Fire and rescue.
The year-to-date report for from January 1st to the end of July, we had 39 structure fires, 23 car fires. We ran 1,664 medical calls, 167 MVAs with injuries, and 185 MVAs without injuries, for a total of 3,139 calls for local campfire rescue. The monthly report for July was 261 EMS calls. We had 1 structure fire, well, excuse me, 4 structure fires, 18 MVAs with injuries and 16 without, for a call volume of 467 calls. Next page is a rundown of the total countywide response. And I didn't get a report from Midland and Fossville, but other than that, everything's up to date. We had 83 structure fires, had 118 brush fires to date. This is year to date, so we've had a lot of brush fires this year. 686 MVAs, 29 of those had extrications, for a total of 3,999 calls countywide. Next page is a report to building codes for structures that were damaged by fire. And then the last page is a report on our fire investigations. We actually, the one on Shores Road was a set fire, and that person was arrested. And just the other day, we had a fire on Elmer Road, and our fire investigator responded and confirmed it was a set fire. Somebody right close to the house took pictures of the vehicle. There was a vehicle leaving the scene, and they were able to take that and put it out on a bolo for the law enforcement. A Laverne police officer was answering a domestic call in Laverne and noticed the vehicle next door, and started interviewing them. And our arson investigator and detective interviewed them. They confessed to setting the fire, and they were arrested. Wow. So we got our first arrest on that.
Go back to the Shores Road one. You said it was set, and you caught the person that did it.
Yeah, the guy that lived on the property set it on fire, and this is like the 3rd time he set it on fire, and he was there when we arrived, and so he was causing issues on the scene, so that's arrested him. I think he's going to be charged with arson too.
Well, it says on our report that it says no charges were filed.
Well, case
be
closed,
filed.
no charges, but could be. Well, I think that's arresting because of putting firefighters in danger and other things. But I think there was some drug issues there too. So Anyway, that's my report.
That's all you have, okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just one more thing, we got notified week before last from FEMA that we have been accepted. They awarded us another safer grant for 15 more firefighters. I've been talking to Lisa Nolan. We're going to get the figures together. I'll meet with Mayor Ketron next week and to discuss it with him, and with his permission, I'll bring it back to the Public Safety Commission, Public Safety meeting at the end of September. And then we'll go through the process of the public safety budget and full commission.
This is one it doesn't, it's for 3 years.
It's for 3 years. The first one we got was 100% for 2 years, and if they were veterans, which we hired 2 veterans. We got to keep them for 3 years. This one this year, we didn't realize it after we had applied. It was 75% for first year, 75% of the payroll for the second year, and 35% for third year. So actually, it's probably a little bit more when you count the 35% in 3 years. So.
And this will make you fully staffed?
Well, we got 2 full-time stations now.
Yeah.
And then this will give us the opportunity to create a third station. And I've already got CTAS. I've asked them to do a study where, based on call volume and runs, where would be the best place to place that station. And then hopefully by the time September rolls around, I'll be able to have that report from them.
Are you having to make more runs towards the west now, or back out to Rockwell and Eagle, that direction? Are you?
It's picked up since Eagle doesn't have anybody now, and we run a lot of calls toward Brayville Pike and Halls Hill, out in that area too. That's probably out of the furthest distance that we have to run. But yeah, it's picked up. We had a NBA out in Eagle with a horse trapped, and we had to take care of that too.
I know Eagle is taking applications right now to fill those spots, but I knew y'all were.
Yeah, it's kind of thin out there. But then with those 2 guys going.
Is it Eagle City or the volunteers?
Eagle City. Eagle City had 2 paid firefighters, and they both left and went to other fire departments.
Didn't we have money invested in that?
No, they had
They
come.
didn't get it?
We're going to go for that fire hall. We're going to, they were going to build a new public
Safety building.
safety building.
Right.
They had not
We never.
come forward with complete plans for that.
I think they backed up on that idea.
It's better than what the city did for a few years. The city of Murfreesboro, I mean.
What's that?
Well, they built one and then didn't man it for a while.
Well, they built that one on Veterans with anticipation with all the growth out there on Veterans Parkway, and then 2008 hit and the building stopped.
Right.
So, in their defense, they were being proactive.
Yeah.
And because as you look up there now, all the buildings gone on.
Yeah.
But they were being proactive, built that station, and of course it sat there empty for a couple of years, but it was cheaper to build it in. It would have been, once it all.
Plus, they used it for a lot of training out there.
Yeah, they used a lot of training out there, so.
You know, you can look at it a lot of ways. And you will present it at the September meeting that after 3 years, at the end of 3 years, decision comes whether you keep them or not. It's the same as it's always been on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is with the grant, once you accept the grant, and because we have to run it through the commission, we've asked for an extension on it to really take it, and I understand it's got to go through the political process. But after 3 years, just like all the rest of them, you can elect not to continue fund those positions. But with the growth in Murfreesboro, I mean, Rutherford County's expanding. That'd be.
Well, and you know, I'll just bring one thing up because it's been part of the payment for them. Some is that motel taxes. And we cut an awful lot of flack in the county. But that helps, for increasing it. And well, now Murfreesboro's starting to reconsider it again because they didn't do it then. But it pays helped
helped a
really
lot,
pay for
yeah.
this in the fire.
That and the size tax, and talking to Lisa Nolan, I think we're gonna be in pretty good shape, because that's, they said it would stop people from coming to Rutherford County, but they're building more motels.
Yep.
It increased $1 million or so, didn't it?
I think the first year they were talking about, actually sold 1 million hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And then the next year, they sold 2 million hotel rooms. So the spring fling, a lot of things coming to Murfreesboro. A lot of jobs too. I see a lot of New Jersey, Illinois, New Hampshire, a lot of license plates, California.
They'd rather put up with the heat than the cold, right?
The
Okay.
last grant you got for firefighters, was it 100% for 2 years or not?
It was 100% for the first 2 years, yeah.
And this is 75% for 2 and 35% for
35%
30.
for 30.
You get you said you hired a couple of veterans this time?
Well,
or
we,
going-
with that grant process, if you hire veterans, you got to keep them for 3 years, and we hired 2 veterans, and so we got them free for 3 years.
Good.
And
Nothing
that-
like that this time. I hope you find some.
Because if it was, we'd hire as many veterans as we could qualified.
Okay. Further questions? Thank you much, Chief.
Need to
Probation
approve his
room.
report.
We approved it, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
All right, roll.
Good evening.
And you.
I just want the record to reflect that I'm under the age of 65 and I'm still strong working. Not sure how we got on that subject,
I
but
saw you and Mr. Duke back there looking intently at that.
and I apologize. And I apologize for some of the miswording on the report. The statistics are for July of 18. I was trying to cut and paste and drive down the road at the same time. So coming back from Franklin County.
Okay.
But in drug court, our numbers are staying about the same. We're up to currently 50 right now in drug court. As you'll see, 34% of all of our clients in that program are addicted to opiates. Another 12% has moved on to heroin as a result of that. So, I mean, it's still right about 46, almost half, have some sort of opiate abuse problem. DUI, we've had 5 graduate in July, so we're down to 43. We'll be able to start accepting some more applicants. We've been on the waiting list in that program for about 6 months. We can serve right at 50 in that program as well. It seems to be doing well. Veterans, we're at 13. That's the lowest we've been in a while. Starting to do more applications and trying to take as many veterans in as we can. 73% of our veterans in the program right now have an alcohol problem. I think we will probably, in the next couple of months, we'll have 5 to 7 more in. So that program will go up as well. Mental health, that's our biggest booming program we have. We're up to 30 now. It's only been open for a year, and these are the 30 the most severe, and we have at least 50 to 60 on waiting list to come in. It is a very difficult population to work with. They need a lot of case management intensity, one-on-one type of service. And we're looking at expanding and talking with Ms. Duke back there and looking at our juveniles as they leave or re-enter. There's a number of them that could benefit from a type of program like this, and we're looking at a way and trying to structure something that would benefit them as well. That'll be our biggest growth out of all these programs in the years to come. That one program there will be our biggest one.
Do you remember when you first took this position,
Yes.
how many were in our programs? We only had 2 programs when you took over.
I took over in January of 2015. I believe we had maybe 44 total in both programs. And we're up to about 140 now.
And all 4 of them.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead. Do we have any more questions on the reports or a motion?
I move we accept the reports as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I was going to do a budget amendment, but I know Budget and Finance is not meeting until October. So I just want to let you know that we did receive a second-year funding from the department, the state, for mental health and substance abuse services for our second grant that we receive in veterans. It's going to be for $111,928. So from all the grants that we receive federal and from the state and our contracts, we bring in roughly $650,000 in outside money. That's not costing the taxpayer a dime for anything that we're doing. So I'm pretty proud that we're able to bring that kind of money in, and we're always looking at other ways to bring in more to offset that cost. But I just want you to know that we have received the money. The state has signed off on that. So at the next meeting, I will come in with an amendment to accept that resolution for that funding of 111. So I apologize for that being on there and not having that amendment this time. But that grant allowed us to hire a therapist for that program so that we can do all treatment in-house as well, like with our other programs. In probation for the month of July, the total expenditures in that department was $84,476.42. So the collections revenue from probation fees was $46,570.72. The court cost and fines and everything else that came in down at probation was another $56,335.23 for a total of $102,905.95. So that's a difference of $18,429.53 in the black. Our numbers are staying about the same. We're roughly about 3,000. It was at 4,000 at one point, but we're still serving about 3,000 people every month. I would like to say we're declining, but I think we're that low. So
And we're growing still too.
we are growing. So between both courts are anywhere from 3,200 to 4,200 at any given point that we see.
How, do you keep the records that you could go back and check your recidivism rate over the past few years? Is it possible, or is it maybe?
We can try to do that locally. I'll have to run everybody through NCIC, so I have to go to the sheriff's office and run that.
I'm just thinking here sometime in the future, they may ask you, because this was a big thing for us to take over, so that probation, and not only that, but that brings back the rest of them. We got 4 courts now. It'd be nice to, just maybe in October or something like that. If you can get the info, you can bring it back to the next meeting. It's here.
Absolutely.
And probably help them see and help other people see that we're making progress, I think.
I know in our recovery courts, in those 4 courts there, we're about 80% successful in them not reoffending in 3 years and able to complete that program. We've extended our program, and they're mandated now to be in our program for 18 months. So the longer I have them, the more likelihood that they are not going to reoffend. That's a long commitment. But we have them for 18 solid months.
Come out a better person, hopefully.
That's what we're trying to do.
So we've heard the facts and figures. I guess we don't have to approve that, do we?
Well, it wasn't included in your first motion, so.
Okay, so we'll approve it. Our revenue report for the probation every quarter. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Deals with money won't even make you call it out then.
No, it could be acclamation.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Trey.
Pause. Mr. Gregory.
Right, so for the month of July, we had 606 animals come into the shelter. You can see the breakdown of the jurisdictions there. We had 70.3% of our animals were adopted or reclaimed. When you figure in the animals that are able to be relocated through our TNR program, we had a live release rate of dogs of 90%, 94.2% for our cats, and overall live release rate of 90%, 94.2% for dogs, 88.2% for cats, and 71.4% for others. 82 of the animals that were reclaimed by their original owners through our free spay-neuter surgery programs. On the second page, we had 137 animals that remained in the shelter at the end of the month. We had over 3,100 people visit the shelter and over 2,700 calls and voicemails for the month. Our officers received 2,313 calls. They completed 2,328 calls for the month. In doing that, they traveled 12,267 miles for the month. Now that's, remember that our activity report goes by fiscal year. Our rabies exposure and bite report goes by calendar year. So for July, we had 45 bites that were reported. 3 of those animals were tested. None of them came back as positive. And we had 9 other exposures. 1 of those tested, and they did not come back as positive as well. So last time we had a positive rabies in our county tested was back in February.
Questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the report.
Motion to approve the report is presented.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You have a budget amendment.
I do. Same as what we saw last month. It's to put money out of our other salaries for that full-time veterinarian position over into veterinary services to continue to pay the contract veterinarian. Still not had any applicants. We've actually had another veterinarian that's come to us that may work a couple of days a week as a contract. So I've talked with Sonia, we may have to reevaluate and just go with contract help, try to fill that full-time without any applicants at this point.
Better to request.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? I just want, well, with the contract, we don't, they have no benefits from us.
They do not.
And
They're-
it's up to them, and their taxes are up to them, so it's a.
Correct. Yeah, we've tried every way in the world to get folks to apply, reached out to everybody that we know, just not getting applicants. And we've tried to use the insurance and the retirement as a, as a benefit towards them, but nobody's taken the bait thus far.
I guess the other thing I was saying is it's working out pretty well for you. They seem like that they.
The one that we currently have, we're happy with. I like the aspect of us filling that full-time position because it gives the staff back there, as far as the techs and the assistants, stability. Instead of on Monday having to do it this veterinarian's way and Tuesday this one and back here Wednesday, I want them to be able to have stability. But it also gives our full-time veterinarian now, who will oversee that other full-time position, stability to where she gets to work with whoever that person would be when they're hired, and being able to groom them how she wants them, and them kind of thinking the same mindset versus just kind of this up and down all the time. So we still want to be able to fill that position, but here and now we've got to do what we've got to do to get through this part.
Further questions? If not, call roll, please, Ms. Scarlett.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cast.
You have my report in front of you. Not going to go through every single thing we do in detail like I normally do, like I don't normally do. But I would like to point out that during this month, we did have one highlight, in addition to some training and things that we've done. That we assisted TEMA with a large exercise that they did out at the Smyrna Volunteer Training Center where the National Guard is. And it was a interoperability, communication interoperability exercise where you had state, National Guard, and a bunch of the counties there, as well as some out-of-state assets, to ensure that in time of crisis, we can all talk to one another. Which sounds real easy on the surface, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot of neat equipment out there as well. So that was kind of the highlight of the month for us. Although we did do some training, I did send one of my staff to a situational unit leader training down in Florida for a week, and got some good training with that. And also my comms guy also attended the conference as well. But that's kind of what we've done this past month. Upcoming, things are going to start getting a little busier with training. Especially when it comes to hazardous materials type training, it gets to where people want it more as it cools off. And there's a reason for that. It's hard. You really don't want to suit up in August, okay? Yeah. So
Not when it's 90 plus.
yes. So we got some of those coming up, although I do have some concerns about 2 of the classes not making their numbers. But and we have to have a certain minimum, and it's usually 15, to be able to present a good product. One thing I want to draw your attention to as far as upcoming events is on the 2nd of October at 6 p.m. over at the Emergency Operations Center, we're doing our Storm Spotter class. Well, not we're hosting it. It's a really good program done by the National Weather Service, so we'll put some more out to the citizens. We've already put it on Facebook and other social media once already, so if you know people that want to learn to be a storm spotter, that's the place to be. You can also take that training online, but I got to tell you, the personalities they have in the National Weather Service, you really want us to do it live because there's 1 or 2 people there that are really, you really get a kick out of taking training from. They're good people and they're very entertaining. During this month, we had 6 major responses that we did. Everything from a propane gas leak. We were out to the dam location a couple of times in support out there. A couple of fires to include an illegal burn. So if you have any question on those, but those reports are also included in there as well. So subject to any questions you might have, that concludes my report.
Question?
I'll make the motion to approve this report as presented.
Second. Motion is second. Any further questions? Good pictures. Yeah. Especially the one that looks like there's nothing left at the
Yes.
plate.
Yes.
Okay. So all in favor of approving the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Okay. Last but best, right?
Absolutely. Okay. So before you have all of our reports for July. And on the front page, down at the bottom, since we sent this in, we have received payments from Sumner County, Dyer County, and Fayetteville. So our updated yearly total received is going to be $42,175.
Did Sumner pay in full?
Oh, they always do, yes.
How long was that for, the 35,000?
1 month. Yes.
Must be cheaper than building one themselves.
I was going to say, that's no kidding.
Then our other good news is that on the STD stats for this month, nobody was positive for anything, so that's awesome. And then the rest of the reports, I don't know that there's anything particularly unusual, but I will happily answer questions if you have them.
Just looking at the GEDs and college prep here, you have people that are actually thinking about college that you get there? Or?
Yes, we have, we had one young man that graduated last month. We have 2 young men that are going to graduate from high school this Friday. And then those, the majority of those are actually bound over to the adult court system. So they're going to be with us for a little while. And they can continue on with their education online. So we have one particular young man who's going to be with us the longest is very bright and can do anything he puts his mind to. So we're hoping we can get him started on a positive track so that when he is out, he can keep trucking.
Any questions for Ms. Stick? If not, we'll entertain a motion on her report.
Motion to approve her report is presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything else?
Any business, and the vice mayor or assistant mayor that has dead cow problem?
A dead cow.
We've gone from our seniors to a dead cat.
Yeah, downhill tonight.
Okay.
We do, on the under other business, there's a annual renewal of the contract that the county has to remove dead livestock. We do this annually. There's no change to the price of this contract, it's $36,000.
Is this Griffin, is that their name?
Yeah,
This,
somebody
is
else
it,
now, isn't it?
oh, or is this the small animals or is this the
This is
large?
large animals.
Large animals, yeah.
That is a cow problem.
Okay. Not a calf, but a cow.
No,
All
calf.
right. Well, it's the same one then we've had, gosh. But we have nothing that can do it, not any of those. Well, then it is, and it'll take a deer if one gets hit by a car in your neighborhood or something too. So, with no further questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve the request. We got a motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's it. That it? Mayor, do you have anything to say?
No, I look forward to seeing you all Thursday.
Okay.
Before you adjourn, we just want to say how much we've appreciated you as our chairman this term. And
Enjoyed the
as you
support.
ride off into the west,
Yeah.
we wish you the best and appreciate everything you've done for the commission and the county.
Well, it's been an interesting 4 years on this committee, hasn't it? Everything that's happened. Okay.
And the deputy of the mayor too, thank you for all of your hard work for the county. I've enjoyed working with you and I think everyone up here feels the same way, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to say something about the deputy mayor there. We have worked for 4 years trying to get broadband into this county. I know Jeff and myself both have made some trips out of the county and trying to get this done and whatever, and we got a pleasant surprise last week with the announcement from Middle Tennessee Electric and United becoming partners together. And I drove over to Paytonsville for that presentation and when that was done, and I think this is going to mean quite a bit to this county. I think those two joining together and what's going to be there. And I think some of it began with those discussions we had and the efforts that was done by Jeff Davison. That we started all the way back in 2014 talking to United about the possibilities of how this could be done. A lot of people didn't realize that there was a experimental project out in the Eagle area, out towards Magnolia Valley, and a fiber optic coming down Arizona Road to that project. About 26, 28 houses already being worked at and looked at. So I think this is going to be a win-win situation for our county, and I just want to thank Jeff Davison for all he did on that. Thank you, Colonel.
Good to be there.
Even though you are Army.
You're an Air Force guy, your hair's almost long enough.
Well, at least I have some. Okay, we're adjourned.
You want to help me up?